Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're going to continue building our Tamiya Lotus Europa Special RC Car Kit. In this video, we're going to work on steps 9 through 12, which is essentially the rear end of the car. In step 9, we're going to put on the extension connectors to connect the front and rear of the chassis. For this Lotus Europa kit, we're going to be building the M configuration, which has a 225mm wheelbase. That's why we're going to follow the step 9 on top of the page and not the one below it. Step 10, we're going to be attaching the rear upper arms. In step 11, we're going to attach the rear axles. And the last thing we're going to do today is to install the rear damper stay. Let's get started with step 9. First, we have to find these 3 sets of screws. Here is 4 of these BA4 screws, 2 of the BA5, and 4 of the BA6. We're going to need the chassis and these 2 extension pieces. They're E4 and 5, which are these 2 right here. We're also going to need the bottom extension E9, which is this one right here. Let's remove this excess plastic from the chassis. Let's put on E5 with 2 BA6 screws. These right here. It looks like we're going to line up all 3 screw holes. Then put a screw in the first and third hole. These are like 2 Lego pieces, top and bottom. You just need to line up the holes. Then put a BA6 screw in the first and third hole. Repeat for the other side. Alright, the top pieces are done. Now let's work on the bottom extension. This is E9. These are the screw holes. It probably only mounts one way, but we need to point them towards the front of the chassis. And we're going to use BA4s for this. It looks good. I think we're done with that part. Now I'm going to bring in the back half and connect them together. It looks like we're going to match up these 3 holes with these right here. Also these 2 with these 2. They fit perfect. Tamiya models have the best fitment. Next we're going to use the BA4 screw, which is the longer one, and put it in this hole. Then the shorter BA5 into this hole. So there is one empty hole in between the 2 screws. Repeat on the other side. Let me go back to the other side and give them a quarter turn. And we're done with step 9. For step 10, we're going to be building turnbuckles, which are going to be the upper arms. And it's going to be helpful if you have a digital caliper. If not, then a metric ruler will be fine. Going forward, all the hardware we're going to use is going to be in the B parts bag. Let's find everything in the left margin again. These are the BA5 screws, BB6 brass ball connectors. Next are the BB11 threaded shafts. The correct ones don't have threads in the middle. BB15 adjusters, I usually call these rod ends. BB16 rubber O-rings. And finally BB18 gearbox joints. Alright, let's start building these turnbuckles. I'm going to grab a threaded shaft. I'm going to hold on to it with my shock pliers and start threading the adjuster by hand. And the other side. According to the manual, the distance between the two adjusters should be 8 millimeters. This is where I'm going to use my caliper. You can also lay it down on a metric ruler. I am way off. I need to tighten these adjusters a little bit more on each side. I want them to be an even distance from the center of the shaft as much as possible. I'm going to work the other side. It's getting hard to turn, so I'm going to use my rod end wrench. I think that's pretty close. I think that's close enough. Let's move on. Let's look for this suspension mount, E11. It's going to be this piece. We're going to turn the ball connectors into this hole and this hole. These two. I like to start these by hand and then bring in the cross wrench. Alright, when you're done, it should look like this. Now we're going to line it up with these 4 holes and set it on top. And put on 4 BA5 screws. Now let's snap on the turnbuckles. You can choose either end, it doesn't matter. And we're just going to snap it on the ball connectors on each side. Alright, there you go. Let's put in the gearbox joints. We're going to need some grease for this step. We're going to lubricate the collar here just under the outdrive cup. Notice this end of the joint is rectangular. It's kind of hard to see, but the inside of the gearbox is rectangular also. That is actually the outside end of the large bevel gear inside the differential. If it doesn't go in right away, just push down and turn it until it seats all the way inside. Now the other side. This side went right in. To finish step 10, we're going to push these rubber O-rings into the outdrive cup. Make sure it gets pushed all the way to the back. You can use one of the dog bones to do that. I'm using my tweezers. The other side is done as well. Let's move on to step 11. We're going to be building the uprights and the wheel axles. Let's start by finding all the hardware we need first. If you're not using ball bearings, you're going to need 2 of these BA12 plastic ones. I'm going to be using the ones that came with my ball bearing kit. We're going to need another 2 of these BB6 ball connectors, 2 of these BB8 screw pins. The ones we need are these shorter ones, not this one. We're going to need 2 of these BB17 drive shafts. I call these dog bones. And lastly, we need 2 of these BB19 rear wheel axles. We're going to put together these 2 uprights to start. It's going to be these 2 pieces. And let's do the left side F2 first. I don't know how you would tell left and right. But anyway, we're going to put the ball connector on this side. You've seen me do these already. Next we're going to push the bearing into the hub. Don't worry if you can't get it all the way in. We're going to push it into place with the axle. Again, we need to put some grease just under the outdrive cup. If done correctly, you should be able to see the drive pinhole. Let's build the other side. It's the same as before. There's the drive pinhole. Now we're going to mount the uprights. I found this way works the best for me. First we're going to thread the screw pin into the arm and upright. If you have trouble, you can try spinning the pin. And you can tighten the screw pin now. I prefer to do it at the end. Right before the dog bone goes in, this is when I like to apply the grease. It's easy to set the dog bone into the gearbox joint first, then turn the axle for correct alignment. When the dog bone is set on both sides, hold it up and snap on the other end of the upper arm. Check to make sure you have full range of motion. Good, let's do the other side. Again, check for range of motion. Now let's tighten the two screw pins. That was probably the hardest part of today's video. Let's move on to step 12. All we have to do for this step is to put on the E1 damper stay. And it is this piece right here. We need two BA4 screws. Here they are. The E1 damper stay has these recessed holes, and they're going to line up with the back side of the suspension mount. Can you see those bumps? That's where it goes. And we're going to fasten it with the BA4 screws here and here. And we're done. I hope you found this video helpful. If you got anything out of it, please drop a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.